Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the kickoff celebration for the Upper Bee Branch Creek Restoration Project. I'm Roy Buell, and I have the honor of serving as mayor of Dubuque. My city council colleagues and I are pleased you have joined us today. I'm joined today by 2nd Ward Representative Carla Bragg, 3rd Ward Representative Joyce Connors, at-large Representative Rick Jones, 1st Ward Representative Kevin Lynch, at-large Representative David Resnick, and 4th Ward Representative Lynn Sutton. Today's event acknowledges the initiation of a major project within our comprehensive Bee Branch Watershed Flood Mitigation Project, a 20-year, $200 million investment to mitigate devastating flash flooding, improve water quality, stimulate investment, and enhance quality of life within the Bee Branch watershed. This area has experienced 6 presidential disaster declarations since 1999. That bears repeating. 6 presidential disaster declarations since 1999. Can you imagine the amount of human suffering that has been experienced by citizens in the affected area? The overall project consists of 12 phases that will reduce the volume of stormwater, slow the rate of stormwater through the upper watershed, and increase the safe conveyance of stormwater through the flood-prone area. Most importantly, it will provide peace of mind to the Dubuque residents and businesses located in this flood-prone area. Several phases have been completed, including the construction of the Carter Road Detention Basin, the West 32nd Street Detention Basin, the historic Millwork District Complete Streets Project, and the Lower Bee Branch Creek Restoration, which stretched from Garfield Street south to Kerper Boulevard and is especially beautiful this time of year with native plants and a variety of wildlife. If you haven't visited it recently, I encourage you to take a walk on the trail or fish in the stream. Yes, the Iowa Department of Natural Resources has confirmed there are game fish in the Bee Branch Creek. We also plan to convert 240 alleys in the watershed into pervious green alleys. Thanks to the support of the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, the federal EPA State Revolving Fund, and the Iowa Finance Authority, which administers the program, we are able to minimize the financial impact of these projects on Dubuque property owners and businesses. Since last year, more than 30 green alley conversions have been completed, and another 50 are scheduled to be completed by next year. Today, however, our focus is the Upper Bee Branch Creek Restoration Project. As you can see, we are in an active construction zone where work began in early June. This project corridor stretches from the rail yard at Garfield Avenue north through this area to Comiskey Park. We chose this location for today's event so you would have a view of the project corridor. Take a good look today because it will soon begin its transformation. While the Lower Bee Branch Creek goes through a commercial area, the Upper Bee Branch Creek is in the heart of some of Dubuque's oldest and most historic neighborhoods. The final project design reflects the wishes of the interested neighborhood residents and stakeholders who provided input early and throughout the process as we develop plans to address the stormwater flooding issues that impact the watershed area where over 50% of Dubuque residents either live or work. Over 100 years ago, the original Bee Branch Creek was buried in an underground culvert to facilitate development. And long ago, this culvert lost the capacity to handle the stormwater. The Upper Bee Branch Creek restoration involves the removal of the buried Bee Branch storm sewer, which will be replaced with a 2,300-foot-long creek and green space. But this corridor will not only be a stormwater conveyance facility. It will also be a community enhancement that accommodates recreational use, includes a number of amenities, and will be inviting to people visiting the city. The project connects with Comiskey Park at the East 24th Street headwaters and overlook, where the daylighted portion of the creek begins. A companion project will see the expansion and redesign of Comiskey Park. Other aspects of the project include the construction of 2 vehicular bridges at Romberg Avenue and East 22nd Street, significant utility locations, and parking. Part 2 of this project, which has not yet gone out to bid, involves the Canadian Pacific Railroad property near Garfield Avenue and the placement of large diameter culverts under the railroad yard. The culverts will allow stormwater to drain more efficiently from the upper B Branch Creek to the existing lower B Branch Creek and 16th Street Detention Basin. We continue to collaborate with Canadian Pacific to finalize those plans. The upper B Branch Creek restoration is both a critical project and a massive undertaking. In fact, nearly 20,000 truckloads of soil will be removed to daylight the buried B Branch Creek. That's right, 20,000 truckloads. So clearly this will take some time. Work began in early June, shortly after construction contracts were awarded to Portson Construction and Tricon Construction, both of Dubuque, for different aspects of the project. We're pleased to have 2 Dubuque construction firms, as well as IIWPC, working with us and bringing Dubuque's signature can-do approach to such a massive and complicated project. We believe the project will be substantially complete and functional by spring 2017, and we plan to complete the project with final landscaping in the fall of 2017. Between now and then, this entire corridor will be a very busy place. We realize that it will create some short-term inconveniences for residents and businesses. We very much appreciate your patience as this work is conducted and major long-term benefits are realized for this area and the community at large. Citizen input and support have propelled this project to where it is today, and the city and project partners and contractors are committed to keeping residents and stakeholders informed throughout the project. Outreach efforts have been underway to inform citizens of the project timelines and anticipated impacts, as well as construction zone safety education for young people. Notably, the overall B Branch Watershed Flood Mitigation Project is the largest public project in Dubuque history. I firmly believe this project will be just as transformative as the flood wall named for former U.S. Senator John C. Culver has been, because it will protect so many homes and businesses from a more frequent yet just as destructive type of flooding. The Upper B Branch Creek restoration phase of the overall project is the most visible and perhaps most significant. So it is appropriate that today we acknowledge the many efforts that have brought us to this time of actually breaking ground. With a total estimated cost of approximately $200 million, critical partnerships from the public and private sectors have made today possible. Shortly, you will hear from some of those partners, but I also direct you to today's program, which lists them individually. Thanks to creative problem solving, new collaborations, and plain hard work, we have secured $128.5 million in state and federal funds and local donations to help fund the project. And we continue to seek additional sources to reduce the cost to Dubuque residents and stakeholders. The citizens and businesses of Dubuque support the project through the stormwater utility fee. In early December 2013, the project was awarded $98.5 million from the Iowa Flood Mitigation Board in the form of state sales tax increment financing spread over the next 20 years. This support enables us to complete the most impactful phases of the project over the next 6 to 7 years instead of 20 years. We are extremely grateful to the state of Iowa for these funds and this program. I want to acknowledge State Senator Rob Hogue, who drafted the legislation that created the Iowa Flood Mitigation Program, fought for its adoption, and serves today on the Iowa Flood Mitigation Board. I want to acknowledge members of the Iowa Flood Mitigation Board who are here with us today. Senator Hogue, Carol Ann Jensen, John Torbert, and Project Manager Carol Tome. We also greatly appreciate the support of Iowa Senate President Pam Yocum and House Member Chuck Eisenhart. Additionally, this project received a $2.25 million River Enhancement and Community Attraction and Tourism Grant, or RECAT, through Vision Iowa. Today is also bittersweet because we are missing a true community champion. Arnie Honkamp was a leader for so many Dubuque improvement projects, and we are fortunate that he served on the Iowa Flood Mitigation Board and was a key supporter for this project's application. Like so many of the causes Arnie supported, this project and its positive impact on the future of the community will serve as a memorial to his vision and generosity. We're pleased that Governor Terry Branstad has appointed another Dubuque citizen, Ron Herrig, to serve on this important board. Speaking of community champions, I want to thank Norma Denlinger and Gary Dolphin, co-chairs of the America's River 3 campaign, which has raised nearly $220,000 to support the amenities portion of the B Branch project. And I believe Gary's here with us today. Let's give Gary and Norma another round of applause. We also will be developing some additional donor opportunities to support this project over the next year. Next, you're going to hear from some people who have played key roles in making this project possible, and people with first-hand experience of the flooding this project will help to mitigate. Please welcome Dubuque neighborhood resident, state senator, and president of the Iowa Senate, Pam Yocum.
Good afternoon, everyone. You know, it's my honor and pleasure to be here for this really momentous day, and I want to also thank you for the privilege of being able to be your state senator. You know, this is the 7th phase of a 12-phase multi-year project that was launched about 16 years ago following the May 16, 1999 flash flood. I remember it well. I live here, just off the street. And I remember looking out my window that night. We were in our basements because the tornado warnings had gone off, and in that time period, we got a 6-inch rainfall in about 90 minutes. Looked out the door, and there was no dry land to be seen down here. And that night, I got about 3 feet of water in my basement. First time ever. And of course, I ended up replacing a furnace and a water heater and a washer and a dryer. But I was one of the luckier ones because my neighbors over here on Washington Street had water in their basement up to the first floor rafters. And some people had water spraying out of their toilets. It was not a good night for those of us who lived in this end of the city, and I know on Kaufman Avenue as well. So this comprehensive project that's $200 million, as the mayor has mentioned, really has been awarded $128.9 million in federal and state grants, and I was going to give a shout out to Senator Rob Hogue as well. After the floods of 2008 in Cedar Rapids that devastated that city, we then decided to get a little more serious about flood mitigation in Iowa because we were losing far too much money and too many blood, sweat, and tears were being shed over trying to clean up in city after city after city in this state. So we formed a Rebuild Iowa committee, and Rob chaired it, and I was fortunate enough to serve on that committee with him. And it was during that time when Rob authored and floor managed the bill that gave Dubuque the opportunity to get $98.5 million out of the $128 million that the mayor has mentioned earlier. So the state is truly in this for the long term. We are truly committed to flood mitigation, and now I want to tell you why this project is so exciting to me. I truly believe this is going to breathe new life into the north end of the city of Dubuque. Certainly it's going to mitigate flooding. Certainly it's going to improve water quality, but it's also going to stimulate investments and enhance the quality of life for the people who live in these neighborhoods and for the city at large. The mayor mentioned the flood wall and what impact that had on the city. I want to mention one other thing, why I think this could be the spark of a new renaissance for these old German Luxembourg neighborhoods in Dubuque. Just as our investment from the Vision Iowa program in the Port of Dubuque sparked a renaissance in the downtown area, specifically Main Street area, I believe the investment and the project that we're about to break ground on today will be a spark to bring about a new renaissance in these old historic neighborhoods in Iowa's oldest city. So let me just close. Once again, Rob Hoke, please welcome him to Dubuque. Give him a big thank you, because $98.5 million is nothing to sneeze at. And let the renaissance begin for the North End. I'm excited. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Joyce Connors. For those of you who don't know me, I am the representative on the City Council for Ward 3, which is right here. So first of all, welcome to the neighborhood for all of you that are here. The mayor mentioned before about our state elected officials. Abby Finkenauer has also joined us. Thank you, Abby, for being here. 14 years ago, when I first was elected to the City Council to represent this end of town, this was all in its infancy. And so a lot of the people, and many of them sitting right here today, were like Pam, had lots of unwanted water in their homes, not once, but twice and 3 times, and something really did need to happen. So I think that, I'm just this person who immigrated from Cuba City, Wisconsin, years ago, and then all of a sudden here I am representing the North End. The folks here didn't know me. I think they weren't real sure about how I was going to do that. I'm happy to say that over the years, I've become good friends and a big believer in the people who live up in this end of town today. There are several representatives from the North End Neighborhood Association that are here. Also the Point Neighborhood Association. Thank you for being here. So my part of the program, I just want to give a shout out to the people. You have suffered mightily with all this. I think it's just appropriate that it's cloudy today and we're going, not on your life. Nope, the rain's not going to come. So thank you for your patience and your friendship over the years. Thank you to Mike Portson and his group that are, every time it rains now these days, I'm thinking, oh no, now he's got big ditches going down there, and if these folks have to get flooded out one more time, it just cannot happen. So thank you for your patience. I will continue to represent you. One of the big things that happened in this neighborhood is when we finally were able to get 2 people from 2 different neighborhood associations to be able to sit in with the engineers when they were doing some of the planning and listening to some of the people who had ideas, and then we took that out into to the neighbors to let them know what was going on. And that really helps, because I'll tell you what, any of us here that don't live in this neighborhood, it's real easy to say, oh gosh, isn't that a shame? Well, I'll tell you, it was more than a shame. And so when a couple of their own could be sitting down at City Hall with the engineers and having discussions, then that gave them more of a sense of that their voice was being heard, and then those folks needed to come back and let them know what was going on. So collectively, congratulations to all of you. Thank you. And may you never have a spot of water again in your basement unless you decide to scrub the floor. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Mayor Buell and City Council members and City Manager Van Milligan, wherever you disappeared to, there he is, and Assistant City Manager Goodman, staff, and the residents of Dubuque. Congratulations. I bring congratulations. My name is Bill Aim. I'm with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, but I'm bringing congratulations here today from our director, Chuck Gipp, who wasn't able to be here today, but He wanted me to personally congratulate you on this great accomplishment that you're about to undertake here. Without a doubt, this has been a long process. I can remember one of the first conversations I had about Dubuque when I first started the Department of Natural Resources about 15 years ago was with Senator Yoakum. And we were talking about Bee Branch and what could be done here in terms of reducing flooding and improving water quality. So it is particularly gratifying to be here today as you reach this milestone. And we at the DNR are very pleased to be working with the city leadership here and to have been a part of the process of where you're at today. Often cities look at stormwater as being nothing but a problem. And the best way to deal with it is build a bigger pipe and get it out of the system faster than that it comes in. And that probably is how Bee Branch came to be in the first place. How the stormwater was put underground to begin with. So to see that you've kind of come full circle after 100 years and looking at different ways of handling your stormwater is incredibly fortunate. Unfortunately, a lot of those old problems, all they do is, those old solutions, all they do is send the problems further downstream. Instead, Dubuque leaders are open to new ideas, and those ideas are considered a wide array of benefits, from water quality and natural habitat to green space and community betterment. Dubuque's approach doesn't fight nature, but it creates a system that allows people to preserve, use, and enjoy your natural resources for generations to come. Cities that live next to rivers are coming to look at water differently, not as a problem, but as a resource. And Dubuque is ahead of the curve in valuing the Mississippi River and all that brings to the region. Now, the Bee Branch restoration continues that effort. Dubuque is investing in water quality, and the DNR, through the State Revolving Fund, is pleased to offer financial assistance to help with that investment. Because of Dubuque's commitment to water quality, we're able, with our partner, the Iowa Finance Authority, to provide a low-interest loan for $29 million, and on top of that, loan forgiveness in the amount of $5.8 million. Mayor, I didn't bring along one of those big, lottery-style checks to offer you today, but we are excited to have worked with you, and that we will be here to assist with the construction and the financing process as we go forward. We look forward to the day when you won't be just breaking ground, but you'll actually be cutting a ribbon on a beautiful new restored urban stream. I'd like to recognize some of the people at the state of Iowa who have had a key role in getting us to this point. Gabe Lee of the Iowa DNR is an engineer who worked on the early phases of the Dubuque's stormwater plan that enabled the Bee Branch project. Gene Cruz in DNR has managed the multi-year environmental review process that went into developing this project. Wayne Peterson and Tony Tygo, Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship, who guided the city with the practices that are going to be able to improve water quality. Lori Berry of the Iowa Finance Authority, who managed the financing. And finally, last but certainly not least, Patty Cale Finnegan of the DNR, who coordinates the SRF programs. Again, Mr. Mayor and City Council, we congratulate you, and we look forward to the day when we can actually come back and cut that ribbon. Congratulations.
Good afternoon. I'm Carol Ann Jensen. I am actually representing two entities today, the Iowa Finance Authority, which Mr. Eam just discussed is the finance. I know the name kind of gives it away, but we do the financing on the State Revolving Fund. Lori Berry's here, who she actually writes the check, but you know that, right? Yeah. And then I'm also representing the Flood Mitigation Board. With me is Carol Tome, who works for the Homeland Security Emergency Management Department. They staff the Flood Mitigation Board, and she's the one who answered all the questions from you or from the board. So it's very exciting to be here. A little more history about the Iowa Flood Mitigation Board was created by the legislature in 2012. One of the authors is here today, reaping all the glory and all his accomplishments, which is well deserved. Director Schouten, who was not able to be here today, is the Director of Homeland Security and also serves as the chair. The board makeup is critical in our decision making, I believe, and the legislature had some forethought in that. I'll take a little credit for that because I worked for the legislature when we drafted it, and that part of the bill I liked. The rest of it was a little iffy. But it combines, the expertise in finance, natural resources, water management, agriculture, disaster management, and the general public. All those combinations, because we knew the passion was there, we knew the need was there. It's just, could you pencil it out and make it not run out of money at a crucial stage and make sure it could be sustainable? The program also requires federal, state, and local governments, as well as private businesses, to invest in the infrastructure to ensure the safety of the people and the land that it sustains. What a concept, that everybody works together for the same goal. This infusion of capital has sparked the imaginations to allow for the funding of innovative measures such as the permeable alleys that surround the B branch, and also to be able to have the B branch come off the shelf and actually start work on it. It was not a surprise to many of us who work in state government that Dubuque was the first city to submit an application. I don't think the citizens of Dubuque understand how tenacious and determined your city administrators are. Well, I've been on the other end. It's kind of nice, but a little creepy, just to be clear. So they met with all 9 members of the board, and they sought feedback on their applications, making sure they dotted every I, crossed every T, and to that testament, I still have that 9-inch 3-ring binder that Terry Goodman drove to Des Moines to make sure I had the right copy. So, and all the applicants endured many questions from the board because this is a new project, new program. We're a little scared to loan out, not really loan out, but give away millions of dollars. So we were very apprehensive. We had lots of questions, and I'd be remiss if I didn't go about my favorite question was, how many actual years worth of data did you use to calculate your average growth in sales tax? Because that was my question for every applicant, and Dubuque came through obviously with shining colors. One of my favorite quotes from Albert Einstein said, "Learn from yesterday, live for today, and hope for tomorrow." For me, this flood project is a mirror of the quote. Dubuque has learned that we cannot bend nature to our will. We cannot hold back the river. Dubuque has also learned to live with the river and utilize its strengths to the city's advantage. And finally, the project provides hope that in the future, a thunderstorm does not invoke fear, but encourage us to dance in the rain. Finally, I just want to congratulate you all for your dogged determination that brought us here today, a day to celebrate the rebirth of the long-buried Bee Branch Creek.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Audrey Morey, and I am a resident in this North End area. I'm actually a lifelong Dubuquer, but I have been in this North End area for 30 years. And I have proudly represented the people in this area in regards to this flood mitigation effort 2 times on citizen advisory committees, one back in 2003 and of course the current one this year. And you heard a really good description from Pam on what it looked like around our area, and I remember very well the flood of 1999 and then again in 2011. I lost in both those floods my furnace, my water heater, sump pump, and as she described, that was common for many of the people in this area. It was very devastating. And this is an exciting day to finally come to the point where we've got this groundbreaking effort and support of so many people in the city. I reflect back on the early advisory committee meeting I was at, and this is in 2003. And I can remember the apprehension and, the kind of not sure about how this would all go, and the thought of an open channel coming through the northeast side of town, through our neighborhood area. And of course, then the B Branch project took off in 2003, that lower B Branch project. And now today, we look at this, and not only is it functional, but it looks pretty good there. I think a job well done. And so it's very encouraging going forward with this project. And I, talking with a lot of the residents and people in this community about the inconveniences, and definitely, we are going to have those. We're going to have street closures, and we're going to have detours, a lot of things that we just kind of have to put up with, during this process. But I have to say that the overwhelming consensus is that it will be worth it. And people's attitudes are very positive and uplifting. There are so many people who have been thanked today that have been instrumental in helping us with the flood problems that we've had to live with for so long. But I would like to, more locally, just give an extra thank you to Mayor, I have to say, Roy Blum, you've done a great job. And I have to say also our city council, they have continually supported us in this effort to get some help and relief in this area. And then you go beyond that, and you've heard of, at the state level and others who have been so helpful. And just kind of a final word, thank you to everyone for not forgetting us. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kevin Pierce. I'm a staffer for Congressman Blum here in his Dubuque office. And we just wanted to take a minute to thank everybody who came here, thank the citizens of Dubuque for getting this all set up, the Iowa legislature, members of the Iowa state government, the city council, and Mayor Buell. And to that extent, we have a certificate of recognition from Congressman Blum for Mayor Buell and everybody else here. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, thank you all. We often conclude groundbreaking events with ceremonial gold shovels. However, because there is already plenty of soil turned for this project, we chose to conclude today's event differently. As many of you know, sustainability has been a focus in our community for almost 10 years now. Early in the Sustainable Dubuque process, a group of citizens defined sustainability as the community's ability to meet the environmental, economic, and social needs of today without reducing the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Our model involves a three-part approach that addresses economic prosperity, environmental integrity, and social cultural vibrancy to create a viable, livable, and equitable community. I believe the B Branch Watershed Flood Mitigation Project embodies that philosophy because of its comprehensive approach to mitigate flooding, improve water quality, stimulate investment, and enhance quality of life within the B Branch watershed area. There are 12 key principles to the Sustainable Dubuque model that were identified by Dubuque citizens, and this project clearly supports the majority of them. We will conclude our event today highlighting the 8 principles embodied in the B Branch Watershed Project. Let us begin with a principle of community design. Next is healthy local foods. Next is community knowledge. Next is community health and safety. Next is clean water. Next is native plants and animals. Next is regional economy. And finally, this project supports the principle of reasonable mobility. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you all for joining us today for this project initiation event. I encourage you to stay updated on our progress in a variety of ways, including following the project online and through social media, or contacting us directly with any questions. And we hope you will plan to join us again for a celebration when the project is completed. And at this time, I'd invite our speakers to join the City Council for a quick photo before we leave. Thank you.